All right, Eagles fans, we are back for Postgame Live, and your Eagles are 4-0. Let me hear it. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Your Eagles are 4-0, and they just beat Jacksonville in rain. That's right. And so many things to break down tonight. Welcome to the Postgame Live between Edge of Philly Sports and the Painted Lines. Guys, I was excited going into it. I am even more excited coming out of it. I don't even know where to start, but let's start with this. The final 29-21, your Philadelphia Eagles, 4-0. Who would have thunk? Rob, send it down to you, brother. How did you feel in the beginning? Because this was kind of a sloppy game in the beginning. Where's your head out now compared to the first, quarter of this game?
Well, when you look at the first quarter of the game, it can't start any worse than what started in the first quarter of the game. But listen, this team hadn't faced adversity. They had not faced adversity. They had led most of the season in almost all their games. And their first taste of adversity, they answered a bell. And as I said in the pregame show, and I'll say it again, Nick Sirianni deserves a ton of credit the way he keeps these guys together. Jalen Hurts did not look good early. They were able to establish a running game, and he was a major part of that. And then Jonathan Gannon, who, if you've listened to our podcast at all, I have spent much of the last 16 months ripping. That defense today was superb at every step of the way. They were superb at every step of the way. And because of that, the Eagles are the best team in football right now.
Dibes, defensive play of the game. Which one you got for me? There's a few, but which one is your defensive play of the game?
Of course, I'm going to go Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, my predicted play of the game, but is that working?
Yeah, you're on.
All right, but my goodness, you got to go Hassan Reddick because one of the biggest things coming into this game was, could the Eagles generate consistent pressure? And was that Washington Commanders game fake news? It is not fake news. Coming into this game, the Jaguars were number one in football in defensive takeaways. The Eagles made them look silly today. 4 fumbles from Trevor Lawrence, an interception. Like my man Rob just said, Jonathan Gannon delivering timely blitzes again and again on big downs. Not only big downs, but first downs. On early downs, the Jaguars were one of the best teams, best offenses in football. I'm looking at a TJ Edwards sack in the second half on first down. I'm looking at a Hassan Reddick strip sack on first down in the second half. Jonathan Gannon is everything today during our postgame show.
And guess what? Don't take away from the fact that a huge pick from Bradbury.
I mean,
talk about, I want to say the nail in the coffin, but that was definitely a wounded duck type situation. Yeah. I'm here to my right with Mike Lauro from Devereaux Sports, the Gobbler Incorporated, and whatever 1,000 other names you guys got going on. But give me your takeaway. What's the biggest thing that you took away from this huge win, not just being 4-0, but what did you see from this Eagles that you like seeing moving forward?
I saw the Eagles get punched in the mouth, and they responded back. They got punched in the mouth, and they turned around and they punched back. So to me, that shows the mark of a champion. What they did here today. Hassan Reddick was not. He wasn't the player. He was huge today. He was in there constantly. That's right, Temple University. You know, and I'll tell you what. If Hassan Reddick's going to keep playing like this, you're going to start seeing more and more interceptions from guys like Bradbury, and give give Johnson a little bit of credit too. Gardner Johnson, he had a really good, strong game today. Covering Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk was a non-factor until late in the game.
Yeah.
So, and that's all we had to keep hearing
he was
about.
a non-factor. I mean, even when he was being a factor, he was a nothing. I mean, having Christian Kirk put up pretty much, he had 2-3 receptions, except that one big bomb at the end. I mean, he was a nothing burger. I can tell you, he's on my fantasy team.
And can we give the defensive line some love too? I mean, the middle of the defensive line. I mean, they held James Robinson in check, and that dude's a beast. Yeah. Again, another top-notch running back. The Eagles held in check. So, I mean, for me, man, to me, the defense gets the game ball today.
Absolutely.
They get the game ball.
Overall, here's the one thing I want to really take away from maybe the Eagles, not just from today, but going forward, was Nick Sirianni gave up his play calling pretty quickly. Not even full year. He said, you know what? I got to work on controlling the entire team than just play calling, which a lot of coaches don't do. Look at Doug Peterson across the field. He still calls the plays. And I'm going to give them this much credit. They made adjustments on the fly. Like we said earlier, this is a tale of 1 quarter, 3 quarters. You know what I mean? That first quarter looked all Jacksonville. We looked like we were going to be in for a long game and a very quiet post-game show, even a quiet halftime show. But they made adjustments. Like you said, Rob, adversity. They got slapped in the mouth, like Mike said. They made changes. They moved forward. They look like a damn good team. And I want to go to the comments here. And let's start with one right here that kind of says what we were just saying. This is a complete team. I'm getting a 2017 vibe.
Yes.
I know it's kind of like this weird thing to say. It's too early to say that, but yeah. I can see what Quentin is saying. Like, I'm getting these vibes. He's also saying, I don't like the soft coverage on the outside in some spots. Bend, but don't break, I guess.
Well, keep in mind, you saw a little bit more of that today. Why? Because Darius Slay didn't play from the beginning of the game on.
Sure.
So you're talking about having guys like Zach McPherson out there who are not going to be able to come up and play that bump coverage that these other guys can. Yeah. So I think that played into it.
And let's not pretend that Josiah Scott did not get completely eaten alive today. Let's hope Avonte Maddox is ready to go next week.
Well,
because that was a major. James Agnew was repeatedly targeted against Scott again and again in this game. So Avonte Maddox, his absence was really showcased today.
Let's see. Let's go a little further down here. Reddick, player of the game. Sure, yeah. I'm not gonna fight you. What's up? Reddick became up big today. Yeah, I mean it's kind of nice because we weren't seeing Reddick's name for a while. People got a little nervous, especially that Detroit game. Kept dropping back in coverage, which a little bit of a head scratcher.
You talked about adjustments, right? You don't see Reddick dropping back in coverage nearly as much anymore. Jonathan Gannon saw that he had to use him to his strengths, and his strengths are getting to the quarterback. A sack and a half last week. I think he's probably going to get 2 this week because he had 2 strips. Incredible day for Hassan Reddick, and I'm sure he's thrilled to do it at the link.
Hassan Reddick is up to 3.5 sacks after 4 games.
Yeah, and another thing too, guys. How about TJ Edwards?
Yeah.
I don't think TJ's getting enough love here because that dude was balling out today. I mean, that sack that he got on Lawrence was like, that was heads up, man. You know what I mean? It made the Jaguars go different team. Like you actually saw them. Like he was confusing. I call Trevor Lawrence Sunshine. That's what he looks like, Sunshine from Remember the Titans. But he had Sunshine confused all game, and they really had to account for where TJ Edwards was. And I thought TJ along Kazir White too. Our linebackers, what used to be the Achilles heel of our team, now has become one of the strengths of our team.
Back to the comments here. Bucket Hats and Birdie saying Scott covered Kirk, not Gardner Johnson. JG was good after the first drive. Back to coaching staff is off the charts through 4 weeks. Sean Kilran is kind of echoing what Mike just said. TJ Edwards came up big, 4 tackles, 2 assists, 1 sack. I mean, you can't look past that. He got exposed today. Josiah Scott got exposed today. Nikki saying Jags were so hopeful. It was kind of cute.
Well,
taking some shots.
I think what that means, at least when I look at this, is that Jaguars run defense also got exposed. The Jaguars run defense came into this game number 1 in the NFL, 55 yards allowed In this one, the Eagles ran for 210 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Eagles nearly doubled the Jaguars in time of possession. The Jaguars coming into this were number 2 in the NFL when it comes to time of possession. That completely flipped in the Eagles' favor today.
Oh, huge.
And I had said at one point, the Jacksonville Jaguars at points in this game today, specifically Trevor Lawrence, looked young. They looked like a team that had played very well, but they're not ready for the big time yet. Trevor Lawrence had 5 turnovers all on his own today, 4 fumbles and an interception. That right there is the difference in the game. Jalen Hurts took the adversity and answered it as a third-year guy. Trevor Lawrence took the adversity and crumbled a little bit with a wet ball and all the different conditions that were out there.
And I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
One of the biggest areas that's slowing down the Jaguars was on first down. This was one of the biggest attacking offenses in the league on first down. Trevor Lawrence finished 3 of 8 on first down for 28 yards. Coming into this, 72% completion percentage, 5th most yards in the NFL. The Eagles took this team out on first down, and that is massive. They only had 50 yards on the ground on first down. 3rd and long, Trevor Lawrence, he is awful. Again, more credit to Jonathan Gannon and his game plan.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to bring up too, how about Miles Sanders today? Yeah. Like, you know, you got to give props to this offensive line, and I'm going to use the whole group. Jeff Stoutland, again, should get another raise. Jeff Stoutland, what he has done with these guys, not only the starters, but the guys behind the starters. You've seen guys like Opeta get in there today. Jack Driscoll got in there today. These guys were moving people, you know, and they were going up against, I mean, Driscoll had a hard job today. He had to go one-on-one with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's been wrecking havoc all over the place for the Jaguars. So, I mean, you got to tip your cap to the O-line.
And that coaching staff, like you said, of Jeff Stoutland, that next man up mentality. One of those big touchdown runs came behind Sua Opeta, who had to play because of so many injuries across this offensive line. And not enough credit can be given to Jack Driscoll, who really struggled against Josh Allen at the start of that first quarter when Mailata went out. But he got better and better and better. Jack Driscoll, man, he made a statement today.
He made a big statement. And we're going to talk about those injuries in a second, but I mean, look at the whole running game all together. I mean, in this type of game, you expect run a lot because of the way the weather conditions were. But, I mean, this is Miles Sanders' best game as an Eagle, I would say, bar none.
It's up there.
It's up there. 134 yards, 27 carries, 5 yards average, 2 TDs against the best rushing defense in the league, right? I mean, but it wasn't him. I mean, you had Hurts, of course, as your second leading rusher. Gainwell had some big plays at big key moments. And even you saw Trey Sermon sightings today with Boston Scott.
Yes, I am so excited. I am so excited for him.
I leaned over to Dives during the game. Before the game, I said, I wonder if we see Trey Sermon. During the game, I said, Boston Scott's a good guy, but you may not see him again because Trey Sermon deserves that role on this team as the big back.
Listen, I took Trey Sermon today to score a touchdown. That's how much I believe in this dude. I believe in him, man. I've seen him play at Ohio State, seen him play at Oklahoma, dude. This guy's a beast. Yes. And I think it was just an odd man out situation in San Fran, but I'm happy to have him here.
Absolutely.
Listen, people get concerned like, oh, well, he's not that good if nobody's picking him up when it comes to things like that. But I think with running backs this day and age in the NFL, kind of like you said, odd man out, who got to make some space. Who do they look at? They look at the running backs usually first, and they cut them off. But let's jump into some of these injuries. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsors. So number one, we are here live post-game at the Southhouse, 2535 South 13th Street, Philadelphia. There's still plenty of NFL football going on today. So get your ass out here. Enjoy some delicious food, delicious drinks. Have a good time. And if you can't make it today, come another day. You have to come check out the Southhouse. We aren't just saying that. It is great. And guess what, guys? If you get yourself in a little trouble, because I know Dives tends to now.
Dives get himself in trouble.
He gets in trouble a lot. Worker comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law with Mike Lauro to my right. That's always a possibility. 610-565-0300. David R. Cherry is your man. CherryInjuryLaw.com. Check it out. And after an exciting game like this, the first thing you want to do is book a trip to go hang out with your Philadelphia Eagles. PhillySportsTrips.com is
They
the
got
place to
trips
go.
out to the Super Bowl up yet with prices?
Trust me, they will.
Okay.
I
Just
will
checking.
tell you this much. They set up the last second, set up a trip to Tampa Bay last year. Huge trip in less than a week. It was amazing.
awesome.
PhillySportsTrips.com. Can't beat the price. Can't beat the experience. So, let's talk about these injuries. Go Birds! Let's talk about these injuries. Let's start with the one at the beginning of the game. Talked about Jack Driscoll stepping up real big. Had to jump in that left tackle position with Andre Dillard still being out. Jordan Mailata seems to fall on his shoulder, holding his arm going into the back. We do see a sighting of him working the pads with one of the coaches. I mean, we all said at the beginning, what a huge loss. Rob, I'm going to start with you. Let's break that down a little bit. And are we hopeful to see? I mean, of course we're hopeful, but
yeah.
how do you feel going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I feel okay because normally if it's something where it's serious, season ending, multiple weeks, the guy's not going to be out there in his pads working on the sideline. I think what you saw was a circumstance issue today. They were playing well. It's a rainy, wet field. They're saying, let's not rush him back. Driscoll's holding his own right now. Give him the rest of this game off. Let's see how he does with some treatment during the week. So I think, I'm not going wood, but I think with Mailata specifically, you've dodged the bullet of a long-term thing. I don't know about any of the other ones right now. You know, I know a lot of people were mad the Eagles going to kick a field goal. They're late. I don't think Elliott could go back out there and kick a long field goal. That's out of all the injuries, the Jake Elliott one is the one where I'm a little bit concerned right now.
Yeah, kudos to, again, Jack Driscoll. What you saw, especially in that second quarter, at least what I saw, was not only Jack Driscoll getting better with more reps, but the Eagles adjusting in that second quarter. What we saw was a lot more RPOs and making the Jaguars second-guess themselves on defense. And we saw that in the Eagles' favor, and that's why they put up 20 points. That was a huge momentum swing. So not only did Jack Driscoll get better, but I also saw the Eagles adjust offensively to kind of counterbalance some of that weight, especially when he was going up against Josh Allen.
Yeah, and real quick, let's look at some of these comments again. Blue City Empire Sports, New York Football Grants got the dub. So whoever the Grants are, congratulations, but means jack shit in this situation right now, guys.
Cheers.
Yeah, to our boy, not here. Wrong chat, bro. But no, I mean, and then let's go a little further in. Let's talk about the whole Jake Elliott. I mean, he did come back and kick again. He kicked off afterwards. I don't know if it was more of a line drive because of what they were trying to create and the weather, or was that just his kicking leg isn't strong or it hurts. Our boy Shane Happ tweeted out, we know how important losing a kicker is. We're going to have to keep our eye on that. We'll keep you guys posted between the painted lines and EOP as that goes along. We saw some other smaller injuries that didn't keep anybody out of the game totally. Seumalo was down, grabbing his foot and ankle. Opeta came in. We got to see how that goes. Devontae Smith, I know it was a little bit of loss of air at Southhouse for a short time.
Yeah.
I mean, let's break that down. If we lost Devontae Smith, I don't want to say it's the end of the world, but the dynamic duo is a dynamic duo for a reason. Mike, yeah. I'm going to turn it to you. What do we do with this situation? Like, who steps up if Devontae Smith goes down?
Quez Watkins. I like Quez to step up there. You also have Zach Pascal, too. I mean, don't forget about Pascal. But I don't think Devontae's going to be that bad. I think he'll get some treatment this week. I think he'll be ready to go next week in Arizona. The one injury that's kind of worrying me a little bit is Darius Slay with his back. I'm going to tip my cap, too, to Zach McPherson. Zach McPherson came in and played pretty good. He didn't get, crushed, but, I mean, he held his own. He's not Darius Slay, but, I believe he held his own.
I think we can all agree the biggest injury that impacted this defense happened before this game, and that was Avonte Maddox. And you just saw how great that guy is in the slot. And Scott was just picked on again and again. So for me, it's Avonte. I do agree. I think Devontae Smith will be fine.
Yeah.
But that's one of your biggest mismatches offensively. So if he misses considerable time, that's a big issue.
I feel if there was any real danger, we would have seen him back on the field today, especially in these conditions. I mean, and that's the other thing I said earlier during the pregame show is like these are something you have to worry about. We can cross our fingers and hope it doesn't happen. But these type of conditions, call these soft tissue injuries, things like that. Yeah. Cleats getting stuck in the mud, twisting an ankle. You see it all the time. I mean, even Jalen Hurts had his foot stepped on, which could have been a turning point in this game at one point. We'll get to that in a moment. But looking here at the chat, you know, the chips are down. Here we go. Nikki's saying when the chips are down, Smith is a charity case. Let's be honest. I don't even know where to go with that.
Repeat that.
When the chips are down, Smith is a charity case. Let's be honest. I don't know where she's going with that.
I guess I mean, look, if this guy's a charity case, you don't make plays like he made last week in Washington. Jumping and catching a ball like he was a 6'8" receiver. It's just not. It's not correct.
Yeah, Nikki, we love you listening, but we're going to disagree with that. But our boy Matty B is a great win, reacted to adversity, possible injury concerns going forward. Season starts next week. Keep up, and of course, keep up the 8-9 alive. No. Matty B.
The season doesn't start next week. The season has started, and the Eagles are 4-0.
Yeah.
They've beaten two teams that have playoff aspirations. We've got to stop downgrading their wins. They beat a team that everyone said, oh, man, this is the hot team in the league right now. And I know the score is 29-21 at the end, but let's be honest. From the second quarter on, the Eagles dominated the football game in almost every statistical category.
5 turnovers. They committed 5 turnovers. We're talking about an Eagles team that couldn't get a defensive takeaway to save their lives the last several years.
No.
They had 5 takeaways on a team that only had 2 coming into week 4. Come on, guys, let's be happy.
And like you said, time of possession. The Eagles almost doubled the time of possession. 20 minutes to 39 minutes. I mean, you can't. That is game control. We saw the adversity in the first quarter. Being down 14 points, all of us kind of started gulping a little bit, drinking our beers a little faster to make the pain go away. But they came back. They still controlled it almost by double. They still controlled the turnovers. I don't know what more people – listen, I know it's Jacksonville. It's a young team, and I can look at almost any team and say almost any, maybe not the Bills or something, but I can look at almost any team and say, oh, well, there's a reason why we didn't win. Look, we won.
I just want to – going into the season, a lot of people looked at the Los Angeles Chargers as a perennial Super Bowl favorite in the AFC. A lot of people looked at them as a good team. Jacksonville went into Los Angeles last week and dominated that team. We're not going to sit here now and go, well, the Eagles just beat the Jaguars. That's just stupid. That's not what we're going to do. Take it. This team is 4-0 for a reason. It's because they're damn good.
The Eagles are going to be top 5 in pressure percentage. They're going to be arguably number 1 in turnover margin. Come on, guys. Let's go Birds.
Let's enjoy this. And, yes, they have another test in front of them, which more of a defensive test than an offensive test for me because with the Arizona Cardinals coming up next, yes, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts and him have duked it out before. We can see what happens. We could be a very high-powered offensive week. But this defense gives us a lot to look forward to. I mean, like I said, this is a big win. Next week's next week. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of breakdown film from the painted lines. But just kind of taking a sneak peek, Mike, ahead into the game, what do you see against Arizona in Arizona with the Philadelphia Eagles?
What I'm saying next week is really, I love our offensive line going against their defensive line. Their defensive line right now is just riddled. And I think Gannon, as much maligned as we didn't like the way he's been aggressive, I think he can throw wrinkles in that's going to confuse Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's not playing good ball. He's not playing good ball without DeAndre Hopkins. And that bodes well for us, too. No DeAndre. So I like him next week. I do.
Yeah, they're going to be going up against a quarterback unlike they have faced anything like this year. You kind of look at Kyler Murray. He's definitely been a little more pass heavy than run heavy than we've seen in the past. We're more so relying on the pass than the run and not kind of using up his playmaking ability to the fullest, I guess.
Just real quick on that point, my one thing is there are trap games in the NFL, and I really see next week as a difficult challenge because on the other side of Arizona is a Sunday night affair with the Dallas Cowboys. And Nick Sirianni's giving me no reason to doubt that he won't have them ready next week, but there is that little bit of, hey man, we got the NFC East showdown in a week. I hope they don't fall into that trap.
Well, let me ask this question, and we're joined here by Pat Bernard, the Gobbler from Devereaux Sports, and I'll kind of turn it to you, Pat. We saw last year that he wore his Beat Dallas shirt, all right, and he kind of paid for that dearly.
Yeah.
Is that a learning thing for Nick Sirianni? Worry about the task at hand.
Worry about the task at hand. Just take it one game at a time. Don't look down the road. Just focus in on the Arizona Cardinals. Like you guys were talking earlier. This team was first time ever. Dougie P came with a game plan. It was to give the Eagles their first L. And they were wrong because, it started sloppy. Jalen Hurts throws the pick six, loses focus. The team looked like they were up against it. But no, as Mike alluded to earlier, Trevor Sunshine Lawrence, he got rained on, and he calls this game today for the Jacksonville Jaguars. 4 turnovers that turned into Eagles points. Big game today for the Eagles. The defense took care of what they needed to do. Jalen Hurts put this game on his shoulders and won this game, whether it was aerial or whether it was, making that play in the red zone where you saw where he cashed in the at red zone where he got helmet hit and still run that ball in for the TT and you got the points. Well, he got in when it mattered. And let me tell you something too. Every opposing team that sees the Birds, they're scared. They're scared. They're scared deep down of what they're going to get themselves into, whether it's offensively against this team being a juggernaut or running against this brick wall of a secondary. Because where you want to go with the ball, the Eagles are going to read you. And just like you said too, Al, earlier, they adjusted on the fly. Dougie P had a good game plan with Trevor Lawrence in the beginning, having him throw the rock around, looked very sharp and poised in the pocket. But no, this Eagles defense responded, made it uncomfortable for him. He couldn't contain the ball. Now, whether the weather played an X factor in it with the rain and all that might have. But, Hassan Reddick made things very, very difficult for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the comments for a second. This is something I can get behind with Nikki. The Jags are a top 10 D, top 10 O, and I wouldn't sell them short. This was a massive dub. I agree with her. I agree with her 100%. Listen, I would say the Cardinals are normally a better offense. They're going to be missing some key players. But defensively, I wouldn't say they're top 10 in any which way. So in some ways, it's a little bit more of a lopsided game there. So I don't want to poo-poo this win, and I feel like people will do that. That's just typical. But let's go back to some more buckets. Buckets that have already. Arizona have to contain Murray to the pocket, and we will win. There's also the same guy who said, a close-up of Rob all day with this show. Laugh out loud. I'm
a handsome guy. That's why they put me right in front of the
camera.
guy.
Yeah, we got to put
that's what it is.
best-looking guy there. Thank you for smashing the like button. Smash away, everybody else. Guys, follow us along on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, Facebook. We're on it. It's the Painted Lines, Edge of Philly Sports. Go to eopsports.com. Everything's there, as well as thepaintedlines.com. You won't miss a damn thing, trust me, because we don't miss a damn thing. One game at a time, please. I guess he's agreeing with us. Yes, one game at a time. We have to hope that they don't look forward, and I don't think they do. There's no reason to look forward. No. You know what I mean? I mean, unless you get complacent, and that's what we don't want to see is anybody getting complacent. TJ is saying this team continues to, quote-unquote, grow 1% every day. Yeah, I mean, yes, they do. They grow as a team. They grow at learning. They grow as a coaching staff, as an offensive section, a defensive. You can't complain about anything with this team right now. You can hate certain players. You can not like certain coaches. You can even dislike certain GMs, Matty B. All you want, but this team is 4-0, the only undefeated team in the league, And they listen, going into this season, nobody thought the Jags were like going to be this big test. But that's not how the season played out. And they were, and we passed. And one more, here we go. I think their game plan was Agnew. I mean, I think once they saw who they were going up against, it became Agnew. I don't think it was the beginning of the only game plan.
I think the game plan was attack Josiah Scott.
Yeah.
When they realized Avonte Maddox wasn't in and Scott was going to have to play, the guy has very little experience out there on these defensive situations, and they attacked it. And when they did it, they did well. But think about it. It was in the first quarter and on one drive in the fourth quarter. Outside of that, they didn't get anything. They got nothing going in this game.
Yeah.
And that's a credit to the defense as a whole, as a unit, and Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to agree with you. I mean, we can say what we want about Jonathan Gannon. And look, Dougie P might know some of the players on his team, but he don't know the coaching schemes either. And he ran into that today. And he thought he had figured out by having Trevor Lawrence poison the pockets like he did last week against the Chargers. He thought that was going to carry over in the same momentum into this game, which it looked in the first quarter. But no, this team adjusted to everything he did and shut everything he did down.
Nikki say the run game carried this team, I guess no pun intended. And WTF are you talking about? I don't know what that part was, but we're agreeing with you. The run game did carry this team, and absolutely against one of the, if not the best running defense in the league as of right now. Birds into Blood is saying best run game in football right now. Can't complain at all. I don't want to see Randall Moore. Okay. And Jalen played like he had a chip on his shoulder. That's where he gets his edge. I believe that. And listen, you can go back and look at other great competitors. I mean, everybody's watched the Michael Jordan special, and they said he literally would make up these adversaries in his head, and they're like, but it worked for him. So maybe Jalen Hurts is doing the same thing. He chip on the shoulder, not knowing what to do at the time with, when everybody's looking down at him. Nobody thought Jalen Hurts was the guy. Well, I'm going to say nobody, but a lot of people didn't. And it's been happening his whole career. And every year, every time he seems to take the right step. So be excited about it. Jalen Hurts is your guy for the foreseeable future. And hopefully it pans out to be the guy for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest thing about what happened today was, like, the last 4 weeks have been really exciting to watch, And I think the one thing I like about what this team brought today was, like they were a little bit sloppy early on, but they never stepped their foot off the gas. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took out of this win today, is that even though they were a little bit sloppy, but they basically played their heart out today like they did the last 4 weeks tonight. And I'm really got to say, this team is looking like having that vibe of 2017 again.
Absolutely. TJ saying the run game versus the former number one run defense in the NFL until they met Mr. Sanders. And let's be honest, we were all very question marks about Miles Sanders coming into this. I can't say I'm surprised, Rob, but are you surprised so far what you've seen from Miles Sanders?
Look, Miles Sanders has the talent. The issue has been most of the time when it comes to Miles Sanders that he can't stay healthy. He can't stay, on the field long enough to make a big impact. Today, on the field all game, he made a big impact. He was a huge part of the game. Probably the offensive MVP today with the way that he played. Two touchdowns.
2 TDs, 130-plus yards.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge – I think
you win that one hands down.
Yeah, it was a huge, huge day for him. And I'm sure he's thrilled in a contract year to have a day like that.
That's an important part. I mean, this contract year coming up, we were talking about it right before we got on the air. We were saying, do you think even if he keeps playing like this, do the Eagles sign him? I'm still going with a big fat no.
Yeah.
Because they got a lot of there's a lot of other guys who are 1 year contracts.
Well,
right now.
And at this rate, you're going to be giving Jalen Hurts a contract, which is really going to henpeck you in on.
Well, you got Kazir White also.
Yeah.
You got Bradbury also. Yeah. CJ Gardner's going to want to get paid. I mean, there's a lot of different things. So let's worry about that next year. But moving forward, I mean, if Miles Sanders can stay healthy and Miles Sanders can be that bell cow back, if you want to call him that, going forward, that's gigantic for us. Because I would say in my eyes, the running backs were a little questionable coming into this. I keep saying I want that big back, that bruiser back to wear the defensive line down. we didn't seem to need it today.
I was saying it all along when they were feeding Sanders. I said, keep on feeding them. You know, I mean, that's the one thing you have to do with this team is that like you got to rely on the run game, and I mean the pass game. You know what you have in store with that, but the Sanders effect, I think, like today was a good example of running the ball very well.
All right, let's look at some of these things here. Yeah. So, is it a testament to the defense as well that Christian Kirk was pretty much a non-factor?
Yeah, I would say it is a testament to these guys. Again, third straight week in a row where we thought we were going to see this great premier wideout that was going to hurt us, and no, they turned out to be non-X factors. You saw it 2 weeks ago, against that Minnesota game against Justin Jeffords. He was supposed to be this big X factor guy, and he was nothing in that game. He was a nobody. He was locked up by Slay. Again, you go to last week, their premier wideouts look like they're supposed to do damage to us. Nothing. Terry McLaurin was supposed to be really causing us a lot of problems. Nothing. Again, these guys, the Eagles do a great job on film. They know how to shut things down. And I love everything I'm seeing from Jonathan Gannon. I can't believe I'm saying that, everything that he's doing right now.
You can't believe he's saying, I mean, after last year and week one this year, a lot of people are still a little surprised about the pressure we've seen, surprised about the scheming we've seen. Even though he's got some big names who came in, I have to still be surprised how much contribution, even at this time, that we get from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Bradbury's and all these guys who have just came in, like didn't have much of an preseason, if not any, with the Philadelphia Eagles, and have just assimilated into this defense. Now, real quick, I wanted to bring something else up here. I'm going to pull it up. I know it's an Eagles postgame, but I have to point something out.
I was just looking at it. Yeah. I was literally just looking at it.
So the Phillies are 8-1 right now, but they're in a delay. But doesn't care. Who cares? They are past that bottom of the fifth. There's a full game in. If this game ends today, it's a W for your Philadelphia Phillies and one step closer to being magic number 2.
Well, I also want to give you a little other knowledge. In the bottom of the 8th inning, the Marlins lead the Brewers 2-0 right now.
There you go.
You could have the magic number down to 1 before we leave.
All right, the sack swing is ready.
Yes. All right, so that means 3 games against the Houston Astros to get this. Let's just hope Houston Astros are done. But so by the way, I didn't say James scores here for the Palace and Fanatics showing us. James, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to bring Dives back in so I can close this up.
You got it.
Real quick. Who is your player of the game offensively after watching that?
Oh man, I
mean, outside of Miles Sanders, who's your next one? Of course.
Oh man, I got to go with man. That's a tough one. I guess I got to go with the new father, AJ Brown. He got a couple touchdowns out of it.
Some key catches at key times.
Catches, and baby Batman's gonna be proud of his father.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
I mean, I don't want to look past. I know he had a big drop at a key moment. But Dallas Goedert, he was a huge factor. Like I said, I was the one screaming the loudest when he dropped that ball. But he also had another big catch at that moment. So I'm going to go with him as my not Miles Sanders offensive player of the game.
Which would make me feel good because that was my pregame pick for guy of the game. So I'll take the win there. I'm just going to take a W. I'm just going to take a W on that.
And all right, back to you, Pat. I mean, anybody else who really stood out to you on the offense that you want to give a little love to and congrats to after a huge win today for your Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, believe it or not, I got to give it to the coaching staff for they learned earlier in the game. They tried to go East Coast, West Coast, run the ball, and it didn't work. They went up north and south and punched this Jaguar defense straight up the gut and got to their points. Look. Jalen Hurts, 204 yards, but nothing as passing. But they cashed in every time, run the ball into the end zone. Great job.
It was a great job overall. Like I said, there's a lot of different spots that you can give a little love to. This was a team win today. So I had Dallas Goedert. You had the coaching staff. Scores that had the A.J. Brown. Dives.
I'm just going to follow suit. I'm going to say Jeff Stoutland is the offensive player of the game. The way these guys have that next man up mentality. We saw Jack Driscoll get better and better with more reps. Opeta came in, delivered some major blocks, especially in that touchdown run. That offensive line was outstanding, Rob.
Yeah, and that leads me to listen. The best teams in the NFL are able to take a ball with 7 minutes left in the game and drive down the field and put an end to it. The Eagles just about did that. The offensive line from the second quarter on wore down one of the top defensive lines in football today. They wore them down. They just beat them up. The holes were wide, and this offense just ran through that offensive line. And that's with Jack Driscoll for most of the game and Opeta for the end of the game. That in itself is an MVP, is a most valuable player of a game type of thing to me, is that whole offensive line.
And listen, once again, not to keep jumping on the coattails of 2017, what made that team great is the next man up, as well as the depth. And we're seeing that again. You know, I don't know if Nick Sirianni and maybe Howie Roseman went to watch that Super Bowl DVD one more time and kind of watched how things progress. But, I mean, they brought key guys in, saw that again, who all produced, saw that again. They kept guys fresh legs, saw that again. And then the only thing we haven't seen, and hopefully we don't see, is key guys going down for the rest of the season and people having to step up. But we see guys going down, at least for the short term, especially in the O-line, and playing just as if Mailata's still in there or Sayamalu's in there.
And that's exactly what we talked about during the pregame show. The vibe, the veteran leadership on this team is just different than we've seen in the last couple of years. Maybe it's like 2017. I'm not ready to say that. But you look at, what we have seen so far through 4 games, it's really impressive considering how well this team is prepared again and again and again. I love Doug Peterson, but he didn't make adjustments. We have seen this team make adjustments, battle adversity, and it's going to be a really fun, heading into the bye week to see and learn much more about this offense and defense.
Well, that is the Andy Reid tree, as we said earlier. I mean, the adjustment situation, and that's what I think does make maybe being young for Nick Sirianni and learning. I mean, that he's not willing to say, he's willing to say, maybe I made a mistake here. Let me try something different, and we're seeing that. So we're going to close up the show in just a moment. Number one, guys, if you're not doing it already, follow the Painted Lines, follow Edge of Philly Sports, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. We're on TikTok as well. EOPsports.com, thepaintedlines.com. I'm going to lose my breath going through all the ways. If you're not watching this, you're not trying. That's how I have to put it. But huge win today for the Philadelphia Eagles. 4-0. I cannot say it enough. I would have never imagined that. Even, we all sit there and, you make your early on predictions. Like, oh, this team could be 5-0 very easily. We all know that's usually not the case, but this is borderline historic. I couldn't tell you the last time that they were 4-0, not even during that 2017 run. I mean, if you're not excited for this team, if you're looking for reasons to hate Jalen Hurts, to not like Nick Sirianni, to say that they haven't played well against good teams, I'm always on my shows, I talk about check boxes, checking off certain things. This team continues to check those boxes continually, at least for the first 4 weeks. Mike, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts for me is, number one, we're starting to see the emergence of Hassan Reddick as a really threat on this defensive line. I would like to see them move him around a little more, and our linebackers, our front seven is now really, really good, and we're going to scare a lot of people, man. And I'm looking forward to these next couple of weeks. I think the Birds are going to answer a lot of people's questions.
Pat, closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts are Jalen Hurts. He is really, really, every week, this guy has impressed me. Every week. You can say what you want about the schedule, but after today's game in the cold, hard rain, This guy, after throwing his first pick six, you would think this kid was going to get rattled in the pocket. No, he stayed poised. He found A.J. Brown all day long, and Dallas Goedert made those guys look really, really good. This kid, to me, is a playmaker. He deserves to get paid. Pay him now, or whatever you got to do, because this kid is really good. Look, as a guy who used to be on that Wentz train, the Wentz wagon, if you will, I'm completely off. I have got off Wentz wagon, and I am diving into headfirst, skinny dipping into ocean earths.
Absolutely. And like you said, kid, I mean, he's only, 24 years old? There's a whole time against him. Dimes, closing thoughts.
I got to agree with my man over here. We knew the Eagles were a dominant rushing attack, rushing offense. They happened today. But what I have been most impressed with, especially these last 2 weeks, has got to be the front seven. Their ability to get pressure with four, their blitz, the timely blitzes on third downs. Jonathan Gannon has been winning me over just as much as Jalen Hurts, which is impressive in itself.
But hold on. As much praise as we want to give Jonathan Gannon, you know, the whole back on their story here too is, which not a lot of people are talking about, is Vic Fangio's around the building. And I think Vic Fangio has a lot to do with this. I really do.
I'm very curious about that because you look at the play of TJ Edwards. That guy is playing borderline elite over these last few weeks. Borderline elite. TJ Edwards, their coverage, James Bradbury, Darius Slay, hope to God he's healthy. We're seeing a lot more man coverage this year. We're seeing a lot of nickel. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had an unbelievable play today. They're playing incredible on all three levels.
Absolutely. Real quick, guys, I remind you, this is brought to you by the Southhouse, 2535 South 13th Street, right here in Philadelphia. Come check it out. Like I said, there's still plenty of NFL action today. Come grab a great meal, great drink, great time, great atmosphere. I can't say great enough. I want to thank them for hosting us tonight. Thank you for David R. Cherry at thecherryinjurylaw.com, 610-565-0300. Workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law. He has got you covered. Get that ankle monitor off. Cherry Injury Law is your man. And don't forget, enjoy your Philly sports home and away. PhillySportsTrips.com. Away games, home games, they got you covered with the Birds, Phillies, even the Union, Flyers, Sixers, you name it, they got it. PhillySportsTrips.com. And my closing thoughts are EAGLES, Eagles!